So here you are. You are ready to run that Mythic. You've got your key, you've got your team, and you're ready to get all the epic loot and have the greatest time of all because you're confident and it's all going to come your way. Well, hold on there. There's a couple of things you need to know about the Mythics before we discuss the affixes, what your limitations are in your Mythic Plus, and the differences between your Mythic Zeros and that Mythic Plus. So, here we go. Mythic Zeros. It is important to note that when you perform a looking for group, or you're forming a group up with either some guildies or some puggies, if you're looking to join a Mythic, the best place to find that is just go under your group finder, go under your Dungeon and Raids tab here, go under pre-made groups, and go under Dungeons. You'll typically see things like this: +8 Temple of Sethralus, 14 Motherlode, 14, all the way down to, you may even find, like, here's a Temple of Sethralus +2, where there's 3 DPS in the group. The Freehold 9 currently has a healer in the group only, and obviously needs a tank and 3 DPS, and so on and so forth. If you are interested in joining any of those groups, you would just happen to click on that and you would hit sign up. Obviously, I'm not going to sign up right now as I'm making an instructional video, but do keep in mind that the higher the key, the more eye level the team's going to be looking for. Obviously, you can't be a fresh 120 with basic heroic gear and go jump into a Mythic 10 and expect to survive. There is a progression, there is a process to get there. Of course, you could always find guilds that will do a carry for you. You can pay gold, upwards of 200 to 300,000 gold for someone to carry you through a Mythic 10. But really all you're doing is you may be getting some of the best in loot at the end of the week, but because you're not familiar with the mechanics, you will fall flat on your face if you try doing this in a guild run and have no idea what you're doing. Even though you may have the best gear, gear does not offset the lack of knowledge, the lack of experience in these. So, with that said, we have been able to bring some semi-underpowered individuals into our Mythics, and they have survived wonderfully because our teams are more familiar with the affixes, a lot of the mechanics. They've seen these instances day in and day out, so they can bring somebody in maybe a little subpar and still survive, because at the end of the day, most of these fights really are just mechanically driven. So that's how you would join into a Mythic. But here's the rub. One of the things you of course want to do before you happen to join into a group is you want to make sure you are not locked in a current Mythic Zero. You can run unlimited Mythic Plus instances just so long as someone has a key. You could go run 10 Mythic 2s and get a shot at loot every single time. However, you may only run 1 Mythic 0 per week per instance. So what that means, if you're going to go to Freehold on a mount run on a Mythic 0, you may only run that once per tune per week. As soon as you bring a boss down, you are saved to that instance, but doesn't mean you can't go back in there. So, very similar to that of a raid, if you're locked out of a raid, you could still technically go in, however, you would not be able to benefit from any of the boss loot that has already dropped in there. The way you can tell if you are currently locked is to go ahead and go up to your calendar in WoW and hover over next Tuesday's date. And you'll want to make sure that nothing is in there where it says Freehold unlocks, King's Rest unlock. You'll notice the name of the dungeon and an unlock next to that name. Just so long as you don't see any of the names in there, you are currently not locked to those instances. But again, just so long as somebody has a key, you could join and rejoin another Mythic 5 over and over and over again, just so long as somebody has a key to get in there. Now, with that said, the keys bind those groups. With a Mythic 0, you can go in there and you can change your gear, change your spec. You can even change party members if somebody were to leave. Once you engage a Mythic Plus, once you put the key into the pylon, you and that group are locked into that instance, and you must complete the instance with what you have. Consumables will still work at any time. Flasks will still work. However, if you were to inadvertently queue as a tank and you be happening to wear retribution gear, or vice versa for that matter, you are stuck for the duration of the Mythic. If you lose a party member, as either the party member has gone offline or has just completely left the group, you may not replace that party member with another person. You must complete the instance with the current party set that you have. There are folks who have been able to successfully complete Mythics with 3, if not only 4 persons, because somebody has disconnected and or rage quit. However, there is a trick to this if you're feeling generous and you know the person that has disconnected genuinely did not intend to do so. As long as that person remains in the party, by the time the end boss drops, not only will they get credit, but you can trade loot that has dropped from this. I was able to conduct a Mythic 7 with just myself and 2 of our guild members, as the other 2 persons in our party, a husband and wife team, had disconnected from this Mythic 7. Our team was able to complete the Mythic 7, Temple of Sethralus, and the end boss was able to drop something very nice, some plate, as I recall. Because one of our plate wearers was one of the disconnected team members and was not removed from the group, I was able to have that person log in before the group disbanded. And because they were able to get back in after a couple of hours, as I stayed logged in myself in the same party, I was able to trade with that party member. So just kind of keep that in mind as well, is that if you have somebody that is griefing you or you don't think is coming back, if you are confident you can finish the Mythic with 4 persons, my recommendation would be remove them from the group, because it's not exactly fair that you and 3 of your party members do all of the work, and this 4th person or this last person could potentially get credit for the completion of the instance just simply by logging back in and not have been being removed from the group. So just something to think about. The differences between the Mythic Plus and the Mythic Zeros. Once you put the key in that pylon, you are locked. That is all you. You cannot swap out gear. You can repair gear, of course, but you cannot swap out gear. You cannot swap out players. You can't even change your shirt for that matter in there. But again, consumables and flasks do work. So that is the difference between the Mythics and the Mythic Pluses. So it is very important that if you are pugging these, or even if you're putting together a guild run, it is very important that you make sure everybody is ready before you put that key in, because as soon as the countdown timer starts, you've got about 10 seconds and that's it, and everyone is ready to go. And by the way, there is no way to stop that countdown timer. So you've got 10 seconds before the fit hits the shan with whatever you're wearing, whatever you got, and that's it. So we're going to go on to our next set of videos here discussing the affixes, but I did want to disclose what those differences were between the Mythic Zeros and those Mythic Pluses. Again, you can enter an unlimited set of Mythic Zeros of the same instance, but you cannot loot those bosses more than once. So if you're trying to help some guildies, you're trying to help some of their alts, but you really only have 1 or 2 characters yourself capable of going into a Mythic Zero, you can go in there. Is recommended to pass lead and or reset the instance before you jump back in, or you may find yourself walking back into an instance you've already completed and the entire party has been ported to the end encounter where there are still live bosses. With that said, I will conclude, when you complete a Mythic Plus and you have reached the number value associated of enemy forces, as soon as you have killed an ample number of enemy forces and hit 100%, and you have killed the final boss in the instance is what we call locked. It means the entire instance is frozen. You could walk right up to someone that is red, you could wave, you could dance, you could do whatever in front of the enemy. They will not become aggressive to you. You cannot do this in Mythic 0. I've seen folks get confused and try it anyway, thinking, oh, we've killed a lot of guys, I'm in a Mythic 0, I've killed the end boss, I'm just going to go ahead and run out the long way, and then they realize those mobs are still active and live and rather brutal. In a Mythic Plus, as soon as you have completed all of the boss objectives, and you have completed the requirement for the mob number objective, the instance will suspend itself, and you could run around and take pictures without anybody getting aggroed unto you and trying to kill you. So I do thank you for your time. We'll jump into what the affixes are in this next set of videos.